Welcome back. This is World Talks on TVP World, and I'm Anna Kalczyńska. As Ukraine prepares for the 4th Ukraine Reconstruction Conference, the mood is more sober than optimistic. With the war dragging on, continuous Russian bombardment of civilian infrastructure in Ukraine, and international attention wavering, the task of rebuilding the country feels more daunting than ever. Rudik, Ukrainian Member of Parliament, joins us to discuss what's at stake in this year's conference and whether the vision of a modern, democratic Ukraine can still be mobilized amid fatigue, uncertainty, and continued destruction. Good morning, Madam, and thank you for being with us this morning.
Hello, Anna, and thank you so much for having me.
So what kind of financial and political commitment is Ukraine hoping to secure from its international partners this year?
We are looking to mobilize resources that our partners have to bring the attention to Ukraine yet again, and of course to use this conference as a platform on getting more weapon supplies and pressuring Russia with the sanctions. So we hope that having President Zelensky there in Rome and his meeting with Keith Kellogg will allow us to understand better if the United States will provide additional weapons, as President Trump says. And of course, we are working with our partners on finally issuing a set of sanctions on Russia that would make it very hard for them to continue profiting from the war and the energy resources, and basically make sure that they have no resources to continue the war.
Obviously, the military aid supply from the United States has been in the center of attention these days. Good news from the Washington from last night is that this aid will be provided. But with the war still ongoing and international focus shifting, how realistic is it to speak of a recovery in 2025?
So first, about the weapons. Anna, the truth is we do not know what President Trump meant when he said that he will increase the weapons. Does he mean that he will just make sure that everything promised under Biden will be delivered to Ukraine? Did he say that he will continue providing weapons at the same amount? There would be weapons that Ukraine will have to pay for, or would be actually increased amount? This is unclear right now. So we hope that when President Zelensky meets with Keith Kellogg, we will get more information on that. As for recovery, when we are talking about rebuilding Ukraine, we are not talking about, building new bright cities or some futuristic settings or creating something completely new and unimaginable. We are talking about making sure that people have homes to live at. We are talking about bridges or energy stations or hospitals being rebuilt. We are actually right now talking 1 year after Russia has attacked the children's hospital Okhmadit in the center of Kiev, right at the heat where children who were treating for cancer had to spend hours at the outside, and it was actually unimaginable crime, and it still happened, and the hospital is still being rebuilt. So we are talking about just allowing us to go back where we were before Russia attacked us. And this is what rebuild of Ukraine means, making sure that we just have normal lives as anybody else.
Do you sense a growing fatigue among Ukraine's international partners? And how does that impact expectations for this year's conference?
There is a fatigue, of course. People cannot be compassionate and emotionally high for a very long time, right? Because people still go on with their lives, and it's totally understandable. But I think, Anna, there is an important point here that everybody thinks that if they don't look at the war at Ukraine, it will somehow dim away and wind down. Nobody is talking about what would happen if we fail. What would happen if Ukraine fails in the war? And then Russian forces will be on the border with the other countries, with the countries like Poland, with the Baltic states. And I think when you think about it like that, there are less reasons to be fatigued, because then it would mean that there will be so many other people who will have to fight. And this is exactly what we don't want, none of us, not you, not us. And this is why it is so important to continue supporting Ukraine so we would not fail.
This is the fourth Ukraine Recovery Conference. So what lessons has Ukraine learned so far in this process, and have any tangible results come from them so far?
So let's be very clear. There would be no, process from the idea right to execution and the conference. This is not its goal. But when we are working with our partners and preparing some significant plans or improvements or investments, the conference is the best place to gather all the high-level officials together and have it all signed and executed and announced and go forward. For the first couple of conferences, there were still hopes that you can bring it all together, explaining what we need, and then trying to get some commitments right away. Now we know that the situation is pretty different, and this is why, from what I know right now, that there would be some plans from different European banks and from our partners in terms of investment in Ukraine, who have worked for months to get some deals in, and right now they will be able to announce it and have to bring everybody's attention to that. So we hope that will increase the support of Ukraine on the humanitarian and reconstruction level. What we have also learned is that the state-to-state level works to a limit, but what works really well is the horizontal connections, for example, between cities or between villages or between regions, where regions from some European states are supporting particular regions and particular people in Ukraine, and they meet and they visit each other's places and they know the people whom they are helping. So it works very well both ways. In our case, in Ukraine, we are able to share with our partners the lessons of the war that we learned and that we hope nobody has to learn. Like, how do you prepare with the bomb shelters? How do you make sure that your infrastructure is sufficient to against any kind of the defense threat, not only military threat, by cyber threats or potential terrorists? This is why we are ready to share this information, and this is why horizontal connections obviously work very well.
Would you agree that the situation is particularly difficult right now with constant, everyday drone attacks on the Russian part on Ukrainian cities and civilian infrastructure?
It is, Anna. It is. I can tell you, not too many people in Kiev can remember the last time when they slept without the interruption of the air raid sirens. And we see that there are more and more and more drones coming our way, where our air defense systems is getting more and more exhausted. But I can tell you one thing, no matter how hard it is, our plan did not change. We did not capitulate in 2022. We do not intend to capitulate right now. People are helping each other, supporting each other, and trying, to live the life and to do the best that we can in current situation. And we are grateful to everyone who is making it happen for us. Not only people who are fighting at the front line, but actually people who stand with us, who support us abroad.
And how about the society in Ukraine? How about the Ukrainian civil society organizations, local government being involved in shaping recovery plans?
Well, the local governments and the local societies actually are the ones who are executing on recoveries. It's not the president who is ordering to rebuild children's hospital or to rebuild the destroyed homes, or who is figuring out temporary places for people who have lost their homes. It is all on the local governments. And again, the key here is in working together, but also exchanging knowledge. I can share you the personal story that last year, on the January 2nd, there was a missile hit near the home where I live. And at that moment, there were 5 people who were killed and more than 200 have lost their apartments, something that they have worked their whole lives for, and they just were standing open under the open sky in winter. And it's 200 families just with one hit, and these hits are happening over and over. So can you imagine the resource that you need just to get the temporary places for those people who are left without anything, no clothes, no money, nothing. So it's a very hard task, and everybody's trying to help out on different levels, making sure that we stand together and survive together.
And in your view, what role should the private sector play in Ukraine's long-term reconstruction strategy?
We have high hopes that the private sector understand that this is rather an investment, allowing them to build infrastructure that will create a high level of the demand, especially after the martial law is lifted. So we hope that the companies that are coming in right now, when the risks are really high, will be able to get their benefits later, again, being here already established on the market. However, of course, it is not in everybody's business strategy to go into high risk, high benefit environment like Ukraine is right now. So we understand that there is just a chunk of the private sector that is able to work here. However, from what we see right now, the international chambers who are working with our government, they are being pretty active, and there are many areas of expertise and areas of private sector that are being brought into the country, starting from the medical sector, of course, building and energy infrastructure sectors, but there are many others that you wouldn't imagine right away, like for example, their trainings, for example, their rebuilding of the schools, etc., etc. So I'm honestly very optimistic, no matter how exhausted we are, that Ukraine is a huge country with a big territory, with a good amount of people. We are really a good market. This is why we are working to become a members of European Union, but this is why we are also welcoming the international business.
Good to hear with such spirit. Kira Rudik, Ukrainian Member of Parliament, thank you so much for joining us to discuss the issue of the upcoming conference in Rome. Wishing you all fruitful discussion, and thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching World Talks. Stay tuned to TVP World for more coverage.